Coming up on TekThing, Huawei's new flagship smartphone, the Mate10 Pro, and Western Digital's MyPassport Wireless SSD. We got reviews, Enchanted Keyfinder, sometimes open source is dangerous, B pictures, and more. All coming up on TekThing. Thank you, patrons. Without your support via patreon.com/TekThing, we wouldn't be able to make the show for you each and every week. Join the crew that makes TekThing possible at patreon.com/TekThing. Thank you.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patty Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every single show.
So we don't really talk about wearables a lot on the show.
No,
I think of like
don't.
watches.
Yeah.
And
I don't even own one anymore.
I still have a first generation Apple Watch, which is much more functional with the latest operating system update.
Yeah.
But what was crazy is Apple did its earnings call this morning, and Tim Cook said the Apple Watch and other wearables, like that corner of their business is the size of a Fortune 300 company.
What?
So that's like the watch, the AirPod, and the Beats. And I want to say Apple sold almost twice as many smartwatches as Samsung did last year.
Wow.
So Apple's winning the smartwatch war. So if you would like us to look more at the smartwatch lifestyle.
He can do it, because I don't have any Apple products. Except for a really old iPad.
Well, I mean, we can also take a look at some of the Android stuff, the
That's
Android stuff too. In any case, ask@tekthing.com. Send us your questions, send us your tips, send us, your thoughts like, hey, can you talk about this?
So speaking of Androids, we
Huawei
have a phone.
Mate10 Pro.
Yes, the Mate10 Pro. It would be the predecessor to the Mate10. Yes, I am.
The follow-up, the predecessor.
The follow-up. Yes, you're right. The follow-up. I know my words.
It's turning into a Doctor Who episode already.
I know, right?
I still haven't seen an entire Doctor Who episode.
Regeneration.
So okay, so Huawei's flagship competing with the Pixel 2.
Competing with all the flagships, to be honest. And yes, I am very aware of the reviews over at BestBuy.com. Apparently this was happening. People were writing reviews trying to win a free Mate10 Pro. So if you see a 5-star review, might not want to believe it. However, I got a real one here that we are reviewing today, so I can tell you what it's actually like.
Is it a $1,200 flagship, a $1,000 flag?
No, it's cheaper.
Really?
Yeah, it's $799.99 unlocked, so you can get it from a few different retailers in the US. Those retailers are also offering $150 gift cards during the pre-order time until Sunday the 18th when it starts shipping, and you can't get it with any US carriers, which is unfortunate.
I'm okay with it being unlocked.
Only unlocked.
So basically it's still $800. They just give you $150 credit.
Yeah, but if you're a couponer, that's worth it. So it does come in a few different colors. There's gray, brown, and a blue version. I have the gray version, obviously, and it does come with a few things in the box, like a screen protector, a TPU case, one of these plasticky cases, which is nice.
I just want to say the screen protector is installed at the factory.
Yes, it is, which is
awesome.
great, so you don't have to do it. A USB-C headphones, because there is no headphone jack, which is very unfortunate, and a USB-C to audio adapter, as well as a regular charger for your wall. Now, the body on this, it's about the same as a Pixel 2 XL. It's covered in Gorilla Glass the entire way around, which means it picks up all the fingerprints all the time, but it looks pretty good. I will get to the camera in just a bit. There is a fingerprint reader on the back as well, and yes, it works just fine, so no story really to tell there.
Do glass-backed phones make you as nervous as they make me?
Well, since it came with a case, not really.
Okay. Well, you don't have the case on there, though.
But yes, it does. So I keep the case on there unless I'm currently showing you what it looks like without the case. A few other things, there is no dual SIM slot, just one SIM, no external micro SD card, so you get 128 gigs of storage inside and that's it. And no replaceable battery. However, it has a 4,000 milliamp per hour battery on the inside, which is great. Now, it has 6-inch screen on here. It's an 18:9 AMOLED OLED display. The resolution is a little bit less than the Pixel 2 XL. So it's at 2160 by 1080 pixels, which is full HD plus, at 402 pixels per inch. That's about 100 less than the Pixel 2 XL. However, you won't see that pixel difference unless you're sitting up close and personal to this thing. So don't worry too much about that. As far as the colors go, no, it's not going to turn blue whenever you switch it to the sides.
Yes!
It is a little less contrasty than the Pixel 2 XL after the Pixel got that upgrade and that update, which is nice. However,
The
it's not
saturated mode for the Pixel.
Yeah,
too.
but if you stick the Pixel on natural mode or their normal mode, then they look almost exactly the same side by side in a side by side comparison.
Do you run your Pixel 2 in saturated mode?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I love saturated mode. It's my favorite. That was one of the big things that I had a problem with when I first
Right.
reviewed it, so I'm glad that they updated it. However, if you like this thing to have nice contrasty colors, you can totally change the color temperatures in the settings. And they have a whole bunch of customizations that you can do in the settings, which is kind of neat. More on the UI in just a bit. So other than that, there's also HDR10 support. So if you're watching HDR10 videos and TV shows, they look really pretty on this thing. And I mentioned that big battery, and you probably get even more time with that battery because of that lower resolution too.
I'm trying to remember if the Netflix application for phones can actually do 4K HDR.
That's a good question.
For another day. So 4,000 milliamp hours for the battery.
Yeah.
That is a huge battery.
That's very big, yeah. Compared to a lot of the phones that are currently on the market, 4,000 is pretty much top of the line that you can get. And this phone will last well over a day. For example, I was watching a movie on wireless at full brightness, and I only got it to drop to 86% after an hour of having the screen on watching this movie.
At full brightness.
At full brightness,
Okay.
which is very, very good. Comparison to my Pixel 2 XL, that one dropped to around 80%. So that'll give you a good idea of it. Now, proprietary charging is a thing with this. They have the Huawei Supercharge technology that gets you 20% charged in 10 minutes or 58% charged after 30 minutes. I did test this. This is right on par with what they are saying that it is.
Cool.
As far as the insides go, there is this weird new CPU chip in there. It's called the Kirin 970 chipset.
Samsung has their competitor to Qualcomm.
Yeah.
Huawei is their competitor to Qualcomm, which
Yeah.
is, instead of being like a Snapdragon 845, they're using Huawei's Kirin 970, which amongst other things has slightly slower cores than a Snapdragon 845. Not that
Right.
you're going to notice.
You don't notice.
And Huawei's like deeply invested in this idea that they have like AI on the phone and AI in the cloud, and over time it's going to optimize your experience. It basically like AI, which really means machine learning, which is
Right.
actually a bunch of DSPs constantly analyzing what's going on in your phone. Big buzzwords in the Android world.
Yes, very, very big buzzwords. Honestly, you can't really test AI after having the phone for a few days like I have. So I couldn't tell you whether or not it works like it's supposed to. However, it is fast. It's also got 6 gigs of RAM on the inside and NFC as well. So, it's got all the little perks that you would expect it to have.
You love watching movies using the speakers on the phone.
I do. Yep. There are. So I have a few little things to talk about with this.
Never use the speaker on the phone. It is a big deal for you.
I use it all the time. So I always watch like podcasts and YouTube videos or whatever. This thing has 2 speakers on it. So there's a front one, which is almost too quiet for my liking. And then there's a bottom firing speaker, which at times sounds muted or covered. But when you increase the volume, it lacks clarity and it almost becomes distorted, especially if you're listening to loud music. So I would say that
or a bad speaker.
It's pretty bad. But if you use the included headphones on USB-C, they're fine. Bluetooth is also built in, but I keep Bluetooth off because I don't want to get hacked, and Bluetooth is susceptible to hacks. That's just the thing.
Turn my phone on whenever I get near DEF CON, and I figure
there you
anybody
go.
who's Bluetooth snarfing me in the real world is a freak, and they can have what's on my phone.
It's also water resistant, which is great because you can stick it in 3 feet of water for 30 minutes. I had no problems there when I was testing it, and
Did you actually dunk it?
Yeah. I called them and I was like, can I put this in water? And they were like, yeah, it'll be fine. And I was like, I'm going to test that theory. So I did. And it works fine. But one of the interesting little perks about this is the customizations with the software. So it comes with Emotion UI 8.0, which is Huawei's Android 8.0 custom, heavily interfaced Android interface, I guess. It's not vanilla Android, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But like, there's no swipe up feature to get to your apps. You have to click on a button to get to your apps. So there's a few little differences there. The settings are overloaded with customizational features, which could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on who you are. I like lots of customization, so I like that feature. It does come with several apps or bloatware already installed, like Booking.com, which why I don't need Booking.com.
Because somebody paid money?
There's an IR remote already installed for you, so if you wanted to, you could bring this to Buffalo Wild Wings and you could turn off all of the TVs. I didn't tell you that, never done it myself.
Don't be that woman.
I mean,
You were that woman.
I might have been.
Oh my goodness.
You can do some cool stuff though. It comes with a Microsoft translator. That's an instant translation mode. I tried this with Japanese. It did okay, but not as good as Google Translate, which is not instant though, so keep that in mind. It also has this thing called App Twin, so you can log into 2 different logins for Facebook at the same time without switching into a different user interface, which is the weirdest thing. But I mean, if you have 2 Valentines, it's perfect. Not that I did, but...
As long as they're not on the same Facebook account.
Yeah, exactly.
You have 2 oh, in any case.
You can also access desktop mode with USB-C to HDMI cables, which is also really cool. So they have that desktop interface built in. But let's talk about the camera.
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times.
So I'll show you a bunch of examples in the just thrown up in B-roll so you can see some comparison shots, but this is my favorite part to review with Android phones. So on the front, there's an 8 megapixel f2.0 aperture, which is pretty average with Android phones. You can do filters, beauty modes, etc. It picks up tons and tons of light, which makes for great selfies, but compared to the Pixel 2 XL, it almost blows them out with too much light. So, you know, you get that nice clarity. It makes you look really pretty, like you don't have any zits, but there's just too much light being brought in by the front camera. So it felt blown out to me. And then the main camera, it's a 20 megapixel monochrome and a 12 megapixel RGB. Both of those are 1.6 aperture, which is also, 1.6 is really, really good. Now together the monochrome focuses on bringing in more light, while the RGB lens focuses on color and clarity. Now, it does include other optional features, like there's optical image stabilization, there's dual flash mode that you can use, there's 2x hybrid zoom, which I don't like using zooms on Android phones, so I don't use that very often, and there's 4K 30 FPS video recording as well, which is normal. So in my test shots around town, because I did take this into town as well as my Pixel, I noticed that it tended to blow out some of the brighter hues, like there's this Point Richmond signage that's in full daylight, and you can't really read the words, and it kind of blows out the pretty little map that they have on there. It also had a tough time figuring out the exposure for items that are in full shadow, like this Mexican restaurant has this sign that is in full shadow because of the overhanging ledge that they have, and it had a hard time distinguishing which things are in shadow and giving me like that nice HDR effect that you get with the Pixel 2 XL. So that was kind of an issue. I also tested portrait and aperture modes with the back camera. I thought it did better with depth and focus when I was using the default mode than in portrait mode, because it ended up blurring out the straw on the Starbucks cup. It thought that was a part of the background. It also thought a part of my hand was the shadow in the background because they were the same tone and they were right next to each other.
Maybe it only works on faces.
It wasn't working that well. Well, Starbucks cup has a face on it. It should figure it out.
Well, the face was in focus.
It did fine as far as like focusing on the cup itself, but like the straw, it just totally missed. So it kind of had an issue with focusing there. Now with that said, when I switched over to manual mode and I shot in RAW, which is awesome, I love that it has RAW, it made this huge difference. It was like night and day. So it allowed me to lower the exposure on that sign, for example, and it didn't blow it out. It looked perfect. And then I had fun changing the focal depth, so I was able to get macro shots that had no issue with focusing on exactly what I wanted them to focus on. So if you want to play with those manual modes, you can get these excellent quality photos out of this Huawei Mate10 Pro, but if you're just using auto mode, it feels like it's almost trying to overcompensate for the photography by blowing out the pictures and not doing HDR as well. Like I feel like since obviously it has the ability with manual mode, it could totally do it with auto mode as well. It just needs like maybe a software upgrade. I feel like that's all it needs is a software upgrade. And then I also tried optical image stabilization with the videos, and you can totally tell that it's changing the optical image stabilization as you're walking because it does it while you're recording.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, it's fine. Like
so the OIS works?
Yes, the OIS works. It works perfectly. It just kind of, it'll weird you out while you're recording because you can see how it's kind of balancing itself in the phone while you're recording, but once you get the recorded video out of the thing, it looks fine. So I had no issues with that. All right, guys, I am testing the optical image stabilization as well as the audio in this camera to see how it compares to the Google Pixel. And I am doing handheld for both of these. Let's see how it does if I move it a little bit.
Great screen.
Great screen.
Battery life. Great camera in manual mode.
Yes.
Great deal if you're a couponer and you get like the $150.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, thumbs up for this.
You know, given that you save money over the competition, and if you're willing to sacrifice a little bit of that resolution for a better battery and a camera that allows you to do raw modes, if you're okay with not using auto mode and just sticking with manual mode, yeah, go for it. But if you're not comfortable using manual mode and you want a better camera, you probably want to go with some of the competitors, like the Samsung Galaxy or the Pixel.
Wait maybe to see if they update the firmware and make the camera better?
I would, because I feel like it's easily fixable. We'll just have to see if they do it.
We wait, ladies and gentlemen, with bated breath. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Western Digital's MyPassport Wireless SSD, which you might guess contains an SSD instead of a regular old hard drive like the MyPassport Wireless Pro.
Really?
Do they look similar?
They do.
Okay, so they both got built-in 802.11ac, 2.45 gigahertz, so you can move files over them wirelessly.
That's cool.
You can serve media from it over Twonky, or you can optionally download Plex. It's got USB 3.0, so you can move files fast. It's got a second USB port, so you can use it to charge your phone.
Okay.
But really the thing that matters most to me, ladies and gentlemen, is the SD card slot on the side, because let's say you're field shooting and you have the B-roll on the SD card and you just go like this, and magically little lights will blink up in the corner and it will suck the files off of your micro SD card or your SD card.
Wait. So it's doing this automatically, so you don't have to go into like an interface or anything and be like,
you can if you want
pictures.
to, but I set it up so instead of like either using the wireless interface or using the button on the top, as soon as I put an SD card in there, it automatically pulls the files off the SD card. Well, I should say copies the files. You know, you'll then have to like format it to get the space back, unless there's a magic setting.
But that's great. You'll have two backups.
Yes, DSLR, GoPro, drone, whatever. Fire it up, insert the SD card, and when you've got 4 dots, you see it's like 1 dot now.
Yeah.
And then it'll work its way up to 4 dots, and then all of your information is copied off of it.
Okay, that's cool.
So it was funny. Like, I asked them if I could do the hard drive version as well as the SSD version, because I wanted to talk about the performance difference.
Yeah.
First testing note, the SSD version of the MyPassport Wireless doesn't copy files off an SD card faster than the HD version, or within a few seconds of each other, because the speed you can move the files off of an SD is gated by the SD card or the SD card adapter built into the phone.
Makes sense.
So it's like, wait a minute, the SD card is basically gating the speed. You can copy the file off of the SD card, or the SD card adapter inside. In any case, the SD card is the bottleneck, or the SD card adapter is the bottleneck. The SSD, the solid state drive, is rated for a 1 meter drop though, which they certainly don't do for the rotating media drive, because
makes sense.
SSDs are more shock resistant than rotating hard drives. The SSD is also, a lot faster. Not as fast as maybe a pure SSD in an enclosure, but pretty good. So I copied 11.1 gigabytes of mixed media files. It took 107 seconds to write to the Wireless Pro. It took 39 seconds to write to the wireless SSD.
Wow.
And to read them back off, 111 seconds from the Wireless Pro, 37 seconds off the wireless SSD.
Wow.
So
Big
SSD
difference.
is faster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wireless comes in the name before SSD though, because it's got a built-in 802.11ac WAP, both of these do. And you can connect to it when you configure it. I use the MyCloud app on my phone, or you can go onto a desktop, and in this case, 192.168.60.1 or MyPassport on Windows, or MyPassport.local on Mac, and you get the admin panel, which looks like this. So it's like, do I have the latest firmware? Oh, look. There's a Plex media server, which you can download and add on, and there's the Twonky server. And it gives you information like, oh, my charge level is at 62%. So basically like all of the basic information. And, you know, for example, like turning on passwords, which would be a good idea if you go to public places with this, which I haven't. You can actually connect it to your local Wi-Fi network, so you can actually pass through and have this accessible on the Wi-Fi.
But would you say that it's faster over USB?
USB 3.0 is going to be a lot faster. Like,
no surprise there.
If I'm copying gigabytes of files, I'm getting the cable off of the charger. I think it's fun that you can stream media using Twonky, or optionally by downloading and installing Plex.
That's cool.
Yeah, I'm thinking like tablets on road trips and 10 seasons of Phineas and Ferb, although frankly some app OS streaming server combos will work better than others. Figure about 10 hours from the built-in battery on this. I want to say it's like a 6,400 milliamp hour battery.
Okay.
And by the way, the reason they have USB 3 and that USB 2 port is so that you can use it to charge your phone or whatever else you have that is USB chargeable.
It has multiple features.
Well, it passes the Shannon, I will take it in the airplane with me in my bag if it does multiple things
That's
test.
right. That's right.
250 gigabytes is $229.99. 5 gigs is $300. 1 terabyte is $500. 2 terabytes is $800, which is considerably more expensive. Yeah, actually, it's the MyPassport Wireless Pro starts out at $149.99 for 1 terabyte. Tops out at 4 gigabytes for $220. And actually sells for like just under $200 online.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, it's kind of like, who should pony up the big bucks for the SSD version?
Yeah.
Well, professionals that need speed, folks that are likely to drop it all the time.
So Patrick.
Yeah. I'm actually pretty good about, well, I'm usually pretty good about not dropping hard drives. If you want to pack 10 seasons of Phineas and Ferb or all the Marvel movies for a road trip, I'd pick up the Wireless Pro and just avoid dropping it.
Yeah, totally.
Before we go, some of you are probably wondering if these are impacted by the security backdoor in Western Digital's MyCloud boxes that was revealed in November. I'm going to put these down gently so I don't drop them. Western Digital has confirmed that the MyPassport Wireless Pro and MyPassport Wireless SSD do not suffer from the MyCloud vulnerability.
I do have a question on those.
Okay.
As far as like if I'm doing photography and I want to move my pictures over to it every day, but I want to keep them on my SD card as well, is this going to keep like the first day worth of pictures and then copy them like 6 times over the next course of 6 days? Or is it just going to copy the new pictures?
Let me go into media.
Okay.
And you can do the SD card. So in the media setting, when you go to the SD card, you can basically set it up. So I set it up for automatic import.
Yeah.
So that as soon as I insert an SD card, it copies everything. You can have it copy all the stuff, which I did for testing purposes, or just the new files on the SSD drive.
Oh, that is awesome.
I mean, this is kind of like,
awesome.
this was the second version of this product, and it was a huge step up from the first version. They're just doing some smart stuff.
That's really cool.
And this is one of those things you'll either be like, I need it, or what? Just a thought for you out there. Yeah, for like, I'm thinking like this is an amazing way to have all of the content we would want for a road trip.
Yeah.
Or all of the ability to back up stuff.
Ooh, I'm thinking about those backups of all my pictures I take when I go on vacation.
The 2-1 road trip backup plan, not to be confused with the 3-2-1 backup plan. And speaking of backup, we're going to be doing a backup special in a couple weeks, so fire out your questions to ask@tekthing.com. If you want to ask questions, we're going to have Al Malventano on to talk about storage and SSD reliability rates. And
all the things.
We're going to reveal to you our personal 3-2-1 backup programs. Brace yourselves. It could be terrifying. I want to say thanks to everybody that contributes to patreon.com/TekThing. You make the show possible. Please join them. Just a little tiny donation from a whole bunch of people makes it possible for Shannon and I to do the show for you. And then you get access to patron-only treats, too. And if you can't donate, we understand. Keep sending in those emails. And if you could spare a moment or two to give our video the thumbs up on YouTube, like our Facebook page, or review TekThing on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher, we'd appreciate it, because it all helps. Thank you so much for supporting TekThing, no matter how you do it.
We got an email from Rio at ask@tekthing.com. He says, the other day y'all mentioned Magic Jelly Bean, and I wanted to bring up an open source alternative, Enchanted Keyfinder. I tend to fall for the open source is always better fallacy and have not truly dug into finding differences between the two to find out which is actually better. But Enchanted Keyfinder does do the job.
Okay.
Thank you, Rio.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you. I am aware of Enchanted Keyfinder. It hasn't really been updated since like 2012.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. So it does the job on older versions of Windows if you download it from the right page. So here's the thing. When the creator abandoned Enchanted Keyfinder back in 2012, I think, or maybe 2015, it's a fork, by the way, from the same code Magical Jelly Bean Keyfinder uses. And if you put them side by side, they look exactly alike. It's the weirdest thing. But he migrated, so this is the SourceForge page for Enchanted Keyfinder, and this is where the creator moved the source to. He moved it to GitHub because, quote, they're less likely to mess with the executables. SourceForge seems to have significantly changed over the years, and I just can't get behind it any longer. So, for what it's worth, SourceForge got new owners back in 2016. One of the things they did was partner with Bitdefender to scan all the downloads on the site because so many of them have been messed with, to let you know if there's malware. And usually there's like a red box right here, but for some reason on this screen today, warning, malware detected, download at your own risk.
Oh, that's bad.
That's bad. Seriously, don't download Enchanted Keyfinder from SourceForge.
That's good to know.
Be very careful downloading anything from SourceForge, although props to the new owners for attempting to clean up the mess.
Yeah.
So we mentioned it hasn't been updated since like 2012. When I ran Enchanted and Magical Jelly Bean Keyfinders side by side on my Windows 10 desktop, I get two completely different Windows keys. It was the weirdest
That's hilarious.
thing. So as a tiebreaker, I loaded up the also free Belarc Advisor, which also reveals your Windows 10 key, and its results matches the Magical Jelly Bean Keyfinder, not Enchanted Keyfinder.
Okay.
So I'm definitely down with the open source is always better fallacy. I don't know if it's always a fallacy, but in the case of Enchanted Keyfinder Windows 10, I'm going to say it is a fallacy, and you should roll with Magical Jelly Bean Keyfinder or Belarc Advisor or one of the other 32,000 different Windows key recovery tools that are out there.
Well, if y'all out there have any questions about how to get your key or where to download things from, let us know.
Well, I mean, think about some of the download websites and how they've become crufted up with like.
Oh, I know.
I hate that.
Yep.
Like you click the wrong link and suddenly you've got CoinHive.
All the things. Ask@TekThing.com is the best place to reach us, or you can tweet @TekThing.
At Derek Moyes caught our conversation about whether or not you need to change thermal paste, aka thermal grease, also called CPU grease, heat paste, heat sink compound, heat sink paste, thermal compound, thermal gel, thermal interface material. That was in Wikipedia. And he tweeted out, I've had to change thermal paste before on friends' machines due to slowdowns and shutdowns. Once I saw the temps while testing the RAM, it was obvious what was happening. With new thermal paste, the issues were completely solved.
Oh. Wow.
And this is kind of crazy. Look at the kind of the before and after. Like the CPU temp is 100 degrees, and then afterwards,
51.
That's a huge drop. But yeah, I totally agree. If you're seeing crazy, high numbers, and which is why we told folks how to use Hardware Monitor to check your temperatures and where to find information on how hot your CPU is okay to run at. Cooler is always better.
Always.
I gotta say, awesome that you dropped the temperatures from like 100 degrees Celsius to 51 degrees Celsius.
That's a huge difference.
Yeah, and this is also some pretty nasty, like, sometimes thermal compound goes bad.
Yeah.
Do not lick the thermal paste.
Gross. Well, thank you for sharing those, Derek. Much appreciated.
Rubbing alcohol is your friend when removing crufted old thermal compound.
And of course, if you have a tip to share with the TekThing audience, you can email that to ask@tekthing.com, or you can do just like Derek did and tweet us @TekThing. We're always checking our threads to see what y'all are up to out there and any questions that you have. And of course, remember, once in a while, put down your phone, step away from your screen. I get to close mine today. Do something analog, like rescue a bee from a cold, dark corner of concrete.
So there was a bee. It was cold. At least I think it's a bee. It'll probably turn out to be some sort of predatory bee-eating thing that I saved. But I got it to grab it onto a little twig, and then I transferred it to some trees in the sunshine. And when I left, it was rocking the pollen, people.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
So when I look at that tree later on this year,
I hate bees, but I would punch a bee in the throat. But I really appreciate
when we all starve after you've throat punched the bees and the vegetables go away.
I really appreciate that you're giving the bees some love.
We
need to give them love so we can keep on getting honey.
And fruit. Honey. And vegetables and not starve.
Yep.
I was just excited that it was just working over the blossoms.
That's really cool.
The plum tree is go.
Make sure to share your analog pics with us as well. Put in the subject line analog so that we see it in our email as well. Thank you so much.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing. Why would you throat punch a bee?
Well, one time.
There's lots of things that need to be throat punched.
I mean, dang cookians out there will understand that joke, but if you're not a dang cookian, like I am, I just did like a Whovian thing there. I used to have a house, well, my parents did, that was infested with bees at one point in my life, and my dad tried to get it de-infestated by going in there and trying to get them all out of the house, and he ended up walking out with like getting stung all over the place, and it just scared me. Gosh.
That's a.
You ever wondering why I'm like super fearful of bugs? That's why.
The terrible attack.
Because the bees, gosh, they were all over the house.
Oh, did he like
Bees.
swell up?
Oh yeah, it was like really scary. And my mom basically like forced me and my brother and sister out onto the trampoline all day. So we were just sitting in the backyard like, I'm bored, I don't want to jump on the trampoline anymore. Can we go inside yet? No, there's still a bunch of bees.